Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is host Wizard. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is host Wizardry. My name is Justin McKay. I manage a portfolio of about 30 short-term rentals and have been for going on my 5th year. This channel is dedicated to host education, making you a better property manager or a better single host. Whether you manage one property or 50 or 100, the tactics and tools that I provide will help you automate and become the most efficient that you can within yourself and the team. So today, what we're going to talk about is a tool called PriceLabs. This series is about 3 tools that I love to use the most in my business. We've got Hospitable, which last Friday we posted a tutorial for that one. Go check that out in the link below. Today's going to be PriceLabs. PriceLabs is a pricing tool, really automates the entire pricing process. Takes a little bit of legwork to get it started, a little more legwork to really understand it, but once you understand the nuts and bolts of the tool, it is extremely powerful for any market that you're in. And then the last one that we'll work on next week is Notion, and that is a database kind of organization tool. So I guess we can just jump right into it. You can reference my video for the best and most customizable tools in PriceLabs. That was posted about a month and a half ago now. This will be a little bit more surface level, going through how to get your listings on there and what each of the sections within the tool mean, and how to use them. We'll go in depth on some of the ones that I find the most important, but it's probably best that if you have a PriceLabs already, pull it up on a split screen or another monitor with your listings, and then pull up this video and watch it alongside and edit as we go along. So hope you enjoy the video, but let's dive into it and let's help you get better prices. Here we are in PriceLabs. Welcome, everybody. So each one of these tools that we're talking about this month, Hospitable, PriceLabs, and Notion, all super transformative for your business in their own way. This one probably has the highest barrier to entry, so there's the most to learn, but it probably has the highest payoff. I've helped many hosts outside of myself set this up, and they see immediate results just in their understanding of the market. And the more that you understand the market that you're in, the better prices you will get faster. The worst thing you can do is set and forget it, or God forbid, leave it up to Airbnb to price your property, especially if you have multiple properties within one market. This is super powerful, but you have it spread across multiple markets. This is where you got to be. So it took me a while to agree that I need to this. Maybe it was a little ego thing, thinking I could do it myself. Getting into this tool and understanding it, bar none, the most important and efficient thing I've done to be able to boost the revenue of my clients and our business. So let's just jump right into it. What are we looking at here? This is the pricing dashboard. This is where I live. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I spend 99.8% of my time in here. How to get here, you go to dynamic pricing and then pricing dashboard. You'll also see multi-calendar, manage listings, and customizations in here. Multi-calendar, it describes it for you, gives you the ability to review multiple listings at once. This would be helpful if you had all of your properties in one market, and they were also all of the same size and kind of amenities. That way you could match all the pricing fairly the same. There wouldn't be much differing. Managing listings, this is essentially the same as what you see in Airbnb or VRBO, when you've got all your listings listed out and you can edit them, you can delete them, you can hide them for a little bit. Nothing too crazy in here. Customizations, this is so you can set up tools. I'll actually jump into this one. I don't use this that much, but what you would do is they have some basic ones. You can make your own custom settings that you're able to apply across a massive subset of accounts. So Where this would come into play is when you're in the settings of one of your listings, rather than you having to go in and individually edit, okay, I want February up by 10%, I want March down by 5%, you would have already custom settings that would do that for a certain date range. I just went on a little bit of rant, so if I lost you, we'll come right back to it. The point of my being, hang out in pricing dashboard. 99% of what you need is right in here when you hit this review pricing button. So let's just get completely into it and check it out. The dashboard itself is super intuitive, actually. They've made a bunch of updates over the last year or so to be able to allow you to customize this dashboard to see more of what's going on. How I've got it set up is there's probably some things I could leave out, like bedroom count and city, because I know where these listings are and how big they are just by their name. But the most important, I would say, are from column here, minimum, through these occupancy. I probably use these 8 tabs the most for all of my properties. I'm always looking at occupancy, how we can relate to the rest of the market. And it's so cool. You can edit these. If you go in here, if you go to add metrics, you can edit these to any date range you want, really. Total occupancy, look at that. Past 90 days, you can do the next 3 days. You could do the next 45 days, next 365 days. You can do a ton in here to really understand, hey, how are we doing? How are we doing versus the market? Are we standing out? How did we do versus the market in the last month or two or three? So that's super cool. I added these three earlier in the year. I honestly don't use them as much as I thought I would. It is very cool, though, that this spits out STLY at the same time last year. This is more of a metric of you versus you. How are you doing versus last year? Are you making the progress that you were looking to make? If you are a new host, this would be super valuable because year one is always going to be your worst year. You're going to really have to bite the bullet on pricing and be well below market rate to be able to get the occupancy levels that some of the best properties get. Now, when year two comes around, you've got to make sure you're beating those prices because you don't want to live in year one world forever. So getting this same time last year up there and being knowledgeable of it is super helpful. Revenue is going to be the same thing, same time last year versus what you're doing now, and then total revenue. So these are just bigger metrics that I will say I don't rely on PriceLabs for. I do some manual invoicing and things that will show me exactly how much we made in revenue this year, and then I can usually get a reference. I'm very involved in that part of the business, so I have a reference for how well we're doing compared to last year. I also know the seasonality very well for all of these markets that we're in. For someone new, this would be something to study. And for someone looking to take the next step from middle of the road listing to next level, kind of upscale is what I like to call it before you get to luxury, these would be metrics that I would be checking out heavily. So let's dive into one of our properties. Let's go into 136. This property is in Buckaroo Beach, Virginia, and just on the coast. If you're familiar with the Hampton, Virginia area, it's a beautiful little town. This has been one of our top performing listings in all of our portfolio. And it will show if I just click through this and you see all the gray, this thing is booked out and at the top dollar, which is awesome through the summer. So we're super happy and fortunate with this property, and PriceLabs has been a huge help in helping us understand where we were last year to where we are this year. And I'll show you where that kind of stands out in a moment after I go through all this. So you've just hit review prices on one of your listings in the pricing dashboard, and now you've got even more junk to look at. It can be super overwhelming at first, but let's just take it step by step. Let's go right over here to this section here, configure prices. These three here are going to be the most basic parameters for your listing. I want you to make sure that both the minimum is the absolute lowest that you would put. Let's say your property is in, let's see, for instance, this is a great market. If you're on a coastal area, the summers are likely going to be your high points. There are a few exceptions out there, I understand, but for the sake of argument, let's say that the summers from Memorial Day through Labor Day are your high seasons. You're going to still want to set the minimum here as if you're tailoring to the lowest part of the year. So let's say that's January. January, no one's really coming to the coast in Virginia. We set our minimum all the way down at 164, even though you saw some dates in here that are booked up over $850. We got 882. I don't know if we have any 900s yet, but we definitely have some close to 900 bucks in here. It's okay. This number is not going to affect those weekends in any way. PriceLabs is really good about that, and I'll tell you why in a second. Skipping base, we go to maximum. This, just like minimum, should be the absolute highest that you're willing to go. Now, you might ask, Justin, why is yours at 661 and you have some of your summer bookings already up over 661? How did that happen? That's because I have seasonal profiles set up. Don't worry about that just yet. We'll go there next. When you're first setting up your first listing, have this be your overall maximum, your overall minimum, and the base should not be dead set in the middle. The base should be a realistic price that you feel should be the overall average that you get throughout weekdays and weekends in your mid-season to the whole year, right? So let me say that again. This should not be the dead center of your minimum and maximum, even though mine is fairly close, if not right there. You want to have this be a more realistic value, like, hey, someone's coming in on a May Monday night. Let's put it around 350 bucks, $360 here. That's what it's going to be. These barriers are more to help you in the far out term to make sure that your prices don't get too low or get too out of whack and too high that no one's booking them. Now you'll set up more parameters and stuff as the dates get closer so that you dial in your pricing specifically. So that's how you should set those three up. That's how I've set mine up, with the exception of maximum. Can't speak. And this cool little button will help you choose a base price. And I use this pretty often. So there's a market-based base price. You can base it off the bedroom selection. So if I take out 3-bedroom, this jumps up. If I go to upscale, it jumps up. If I go to economy, it jumps down. And you can see what will the average monthly prices be if you set your base price to 254. Now look, if I change it to upscale, there we go. This is much closer to what our average actually is. We are in the upscale market. We're super fortunate to be there. This is what will happen. If you were just to set a base price and you don't set a minimum or maximum, this is the averages that PriceLabs is going to shoot for. This is accounting for if you set no other customizations. This is what PriceLabs is going to spit out. So if you're okay and you want to set it and forget it, keep it so that July you're averaging 610, go ahead and do that. I would suggest being a little more involved, but it's a great way to get an idea of exactly where your listing can show up and how it can show up in pricing versus some of these other bedroom market counts and everything like that. And then the last nifty tool here, you can see the average price of some properties around you and their size. You can see the average of the prices around you and their size and their listing ID, which you can use to search online. All right, so I jumped over it, but I did allude to it. Let's just tackle seasonal profiles because it goes directly into configure pricing. So this is probably the most loose set of seasonal profiles I have, just because this was our first year. This summer, I will create a seasonal profile for the holidays from November and December. It's always a little different than the off season or the summer. But for the sake of argument, you can see here just why we got to 882 in the summer. That is because this seasonal profile is set up from May 23rd, so the weekend before Memorial Day, all the way through October, which we've historically seen some higher prices through that date as well, that time of year as well. I suggest if you have a property that is has their high season in the summer, you let it bleed through September and October just a little bit. I can't tell you how many big bookings we get across the country in October. I just seems like a good transition time for families and people to get out there. The weather is typically nice around the country, so it's a good time to get out there and still have your prices fairly high. You don't need to drop them off a cliff just yet. So you can see here, I've made our base price fairly higher. This will put us in the 600 to 700 range of average, but we're getting a little bit of a boost because our weekends now have the ability to get all the way up to $882. And then our minimums, this really only gets this low when we're about a week out. So hardly are the dates in this range reaching this price. It's just you want it there just in case, for lack of better terms, crap hits the fan and you are at 20% occupancy and it's July and you need bookings. The tool will bring your prices down in this range. Not directly there, but it'll bring it down in that range. Gives it a little leeway to get there. So go ahead and set these up for the different seasons that you have in your market. If you want to, set one up for every month. I don't see any problem with that. Some of our Nashville properties, we have about 4 or 5 seasonal profiles set up. There's 2 or 3 for summer. May and June are a little different than July and August. We actually see some higher prices earlier in the summer. It gets hot there, so the prices come down. And then September, October is off to the races, like I was saying. It is usually our biggest month. So that is 3 seasonal profiles just for summer, high season alone into fall. And then we also have one for the holidays, November and December, and then January through March. So we call that winter. Was another seasonal profile that we have. So set up a bunch of these. And the last little piece I will say is it's very cool. You can download these. So let's say you have 20 properties in Washington, D.C., and you made 12 seasonal profiles. You can just download it, go into each one of your other properties in DC and just hit upload and it'll spit it right out. So that is super helpful to kind of keep the legwork off the edits and everything that you need to do in here. These seasonal profiles will take priority to your basic pricing. So what that means is for myself, from April 1st to May 22nd, these prices over here on our left side are what are taking priority. But any dates within my seasonal profile are being adjusted based on these prices. So keep that in mind when you're setting these prices as well. That's why I like to make these fairly basic and simple. What are the average prices I would like to see throughout the rest of the year if we're not in high or low season? And then last but not least, personal preference up here. I use fixed prices for this. Some people might like to use a percent change based off these prices. I think fixed is just a little easier for myself to conceptualize what's going on. And then this thing, they added this just about 6 months ago. I always include a base price in the seasonal profile. Why? Honestly, it's just a personal preference. I like there to be some like tether to an average. I feel like without a base price, it'll really fluctuate pretty wildly between the minimum and max and won't get a really dialed in price to what you're looking to see. So I like to add a base price, mess around with it, see if you like to too. Next up, we'll just go across the board here. This is your calendar, fairly straightforward. You can, if we see here, I have some manual discounts being made in here. Let's start off by what happens when you hover over a date. So if you hover over a price, it'll show you exactly what's going on to get you to this price. So you can see our base price was where it was set at. So the tool went, okay, 364 is where we're going to start. Seasonality, let's go down 1%. Demand factor, which is the demand that PriceLabs is seeing for these dates, boosted up by 3%. Then we've got the custom settings that I've thrown in, which are fairly aggressive. I've got last minute price factor, so I think that's within 14 days, minus 30%. Day of the week pricing adjustment, a Tuesday is going to be hit pretty hard, 12%. occupancy-based pricing adjustment, we'll get into that a little bit later, and then my additional date override, which are these right here, where it says negative 17% change, 20% change on recommended. You put those in manually, it uses your thresholds, and then it spits out 175 as its price. So I don't look at this often. I do look at it if I see a price where I'm like, what's going on there? What is the tool seeing that I'm not, or what is being applied that might be too aggressive or not aggressive enough? You can see that the colors are a little bit different. Let me try to show you the different ones. So if we have this kind of solid green, that is normal demand. It'll show it right up there at the top. Light green is low demand. Let's see if we can get some blues. Yep. Blue is good demand. That is most of your weekends, and that'll add a little bit of premium to your pricing. And then dark blue is where this thing has got to get booked. High demand. It's going to add a super premium to. You can actually see this price would be up over $1,000 if I let PriceLabs do it. But my maximum is 882. Hey, maybe we let it get up to um, that price range, but we're going to leave it as it is. If you feel like your property can really pull that high demand price in, go for it. But I would still be a little cautious about going to the very, very high end of what PriceLabs is going to spit out. You want to really get a good sense of your market before you trust that. So moving along in the calendar, in order to add one of these, you just would simply click on the date. Let's see. So if I click on the date here, I can make a bunch of different adjustments if I wanted to. For 14 nights, I can make it negative 17%. I can make it negative 17%. I can change the minimum stay. I can change the minimum price. I can change the maximum price, whatever I want for that specific date range. Leave a little note for yourself as well as to why you did it. Something I use a lot is if I want to update a bunch of different days of the week within, I don't know, a 2-month period. Let's say we really want to get aggressive on our weekdays. We could go Sunday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. It'll only adjust those days of the week within this. Let's say this is like a 35, 40-day period, and it'll give it that price setting. So that's something I use a lot. And I want to add in here too that I'm making these date specific overrides once a week. Usually do a checkup every Sunday. I let the tool do its thing for the week, see if the parameters that I made or the edits that I made on Sunday did anything. If not, I'll go ahead and adjust accordingly. Or if they did, I'll go ahead and adjust accordingly. So the gray ones will show where you're booked. The one misleading little part about this is I don't think it locks in exactly what you got for the final booking in the gray. Like I think these adjust a little bit. Like if I were to put a 20% discount on these 2 days that I already booked, it would show me a 20% discount of 233. So it might be a little bit misleading to read it this way, but also I'm not entirely sure on that. But just know that the gray means that it's been booked. The green, blue, or light green, dark blue are the ones that are open. And it will show their demand. And this is a cool place to just be able to access individual dates with overrides that might not be as nuanced or targeted as these customizations we'll get to in a second. Next tab we have up here is neighborhood data. If you want to geek out and learn about your market, this is the place to be. If you have been a host for over a year or for at least 6 months, this is also a place you're going to want to hang out. So when I click this little button, well, first let me explain the whole thing. So you've got your pricing percentile. Gray is 50, red is 75, light pink is 90th, and then anything above that is crazy pricing. way above the market, you can see that this property is very well in that way. Um, but I just click this little button. Your upcoming bookings will be in green, right? And that will show where your upcoming bookings stand according to the market. Cool thing they added is if you look at these little pink, it'll show you what the holidays are. So no more needing to go and see what's going on in my calendar. Now, of course, it doesn't have the most directed, like, I don't know, Buckaroo Beach, for this case, the Buckaroo Beach Farmers Market. It won't have that in there. But pretty major holidays and events, like I know in Nashville, it had some of the, or in Austin, it had the F1 series in there and some other things. So really cool just to make sure that you're getting the top dollar for the prices that you have for the property and the time that you're pricing for. My most favorite piece of this is you can check out your last year bookings. So as you can see, if you pull this up first, I'm going to take away your upcoming bookings. So if you pull this up, right, you're sitting here January 1, you're like, hey, how do we want to price for this year? Pull out your last year bookings and just go up by 10 to 20% on those weekends and weekdays, and just start from there and work your way down. Now, of course, there are some holidays and stuff where you want to go even higher than that. But you can see the exact, I love this part because you can see the exact ADR you were priced at last year. You can also see when it was booked. So the lead time that you're going to get to be able to get a price like that. I use this so often, especially because you saw that we had some open dates in July, right? I think it was a little bit later. So you're seeing July 17th. This was booked today, last year, April 17th. Another one, March. This is already booked on ours, I think. It was booked in March, booked in April, booked in May, booked in March. So you can start to see what the customer trends are. When are people starting to look at July and August? Do you need to panic and bring down your prices 3, 4, 5 months in advance for those dates? Sometimes you might not need to bring them down until you're about a month out, and that's pretty standard. So the wealth of historical knowledge in this tool as you keep using it is above and beyond. It's awesome. So really geek out on this if you've been using the tool for a little bit, or if you, I believe if you already had your listing up for let's say a year and you start using PriceLabs, it'll pull all this data in here, which is really cool. You don't have to be using PriceLabs to have it. It'll pull it from Airbnb and VRBO to see your old average daily rates. And you can see that we did pretty well with putting our prices up and above what we got last year. And we also got higher lead times. So we had a lower ADR and a lower lead time last year. We had a 5 month ADR, a 5 month lead time for Memorial Day, and over $120 more per night, which is awesome. It's just Memorial Day, same here. Like we're just seeing some great returns. And this is all because of using this tool right here, which is awesome. So enough on that section. You can do the same thing with occupancy. The gray area will show your occupancy. The red line will show the market occupancy. And just so you can see exactly how you compare to the market in different lead times and different time out. The most fun tool I think there is to use, the most fun tool if you're a property manager to be able to show clients how your listing compares or how their listing compares to some of their neighbors is this right here. This gives you the ability to go into Airbnb or VRBO, grab some of your competitors' listing names, throw them in here. See, you can pick a bunch of them. Throw them in here and it will automatically pull out all of their data and how they're priced. Just so you can accurately see, like, hey, a client reaches out to you and says, like, hey, I think we're priced a little bit too low for the summer. And well, if you're good at what you do, you will understand the market and that the prices are fairly accurate for what you're going on. And if you need a little bit more data to back it up, it is a little tedious to pull it together, but I believe it's worth it. It always blows the socks off of clients when you pull this stuff together It also gives you a great sense of what the market is looking like. But you could pull in here and say, well, actually, look, these clients are up in the 450 range. This weekend they're not getting booked. Next weekend they're not getting booked. Following weekend out they're not getting booked. We're sitting over here at 60% occupancy, and they can put their prices up at 450 all they want. No one's booking at that price. You can even see when they're booked and what they got booked at. Look at that. You can see that we might have priced a little bit lower during the week, but we priced even higher, way higher. This is 30, 40% higher than they did on the weekend. And we have a nice 6-day booking in here. This guy sitting at 449 is not getting any bite. Got some good bites here at 449, but look at that. We are already in the 800s for the weekend. So this is just a cool tool to see exactly how you compare in terms of occupancy and pricing versus the market versus specific competitors. So use this a bunch. I usually download it to CSV, pull it in Google Sheets and geek out. But if you're not a nerd like me, maybe you just look at it in the tool. Next is hotel data. To be honest, I'm not that versed with this. I think I used it maybe one time. Yeah, when we were first getting this going. I would feel this is best for smaller units, maybe condos or an area. One that comes to mind would be like the coast of Florida, where there are many timeshares and hotels that you're competing against. You would want to see exactly where some of those timeshares come in pricing, because timeshares, honestly, they have a full kitchen, they've got a pool, they've got separate bedrooms. They compare pretty well to a nice Airbnb. So you want to make sure you're priced well compared to the market, the hotel market. I will say not all home sizes and markets would really use this data, in my experience, maybe not yours. So now we're back in the calendar area. The last little pieces I'll add here is very cool. You can still see your occupancy levels here. I use these a bunch to see exactly how we're doing. Then you want this sync prices button always on. PriceLabs will sync every 24 hours, but you can come in here anytime you want and hit this sync button and save and refresh, and it will update to all your listings across all platforms. So customizations, I made a whole video on all the customizations and how to use them. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through this, just going through the basics. So minimum stay settings, you want to make sure these are updated so they can spit out across all your channels. Very cool that you can do this for both last minute and far out bookings. You can see that I don't want people being able to book for less than 3 nights if it's 180 days away. If they're willing to book, 6 to 9 months away, I want those to be some higher level, higher ADR, higher minimum stay bookings. So I'm okay having the far out bookings a little bit higher. And then you can see the default is 2 on the weekday and 2 on the weekend. Some of my properties, I will add a last minute booking to have it be 1 night. And then orphan gaps. Orphan gaps are if, let's say you had someone book from Sunday to Wednesday, and then you had someone book from Friday to the following Sunday. That leaves that Thursday. Let's see if we have one in here. We do. Perfect, right here. This Thursday is in no man's land. No one can book that because your minimum stay settings, my minimum stay settings say 2 nights. That's what this little triangle is saying. Hey, no one can book this because your settings say so. 9 times out of 10, I leave it as is. But if you want to give the ability to people be able to book for 1 night, you would just go add orphan gaps, and this can get a little confusing, but you would just typically make this length of gap 1 day for a weekday, 1 day for a weekend, and you want to make it the stay 1 night and 1 night apply only within X number of nights. Little confusing, but the idea of it is to give your guests the ability to book for less than your minimum stay if 2 bookings kind of crowd in a set of dates. Next, smart presets. The ones I use the most are the ones that are turned on. Last minute pricing, fairly straightforward. You can customize orphan day prices, is what we just talked about. Far out prices, I use the default, gradually increase by 90% over 30, then consistent after that. These next 2, These next two here are the most important. We already talked about seasonal profiles, definitely set these up. The next is occupancy-based pricing adjustments. Big word, big phrase, I would say. This is what will allow you to really automate your pricing, keep you out of this tool. Now, I want to preface that this tool isn't a set it and forget it, and you're learning that now because there are a bunch of settings that we need to do. If there's one that automates this tool the most, it's this one. What this tool does is it gives you, am I going to get this right? Is this the x-axis or the y-axis? Let's just say the horizontal axis is the day ranges, the vertical axis is the occupancy level. So you can see here, if it's between 0 and 50, if a date is within 0 and 15 days away, and we are at less than 10% occupancy or equal to 10% occupancy, I'm hammering those prices down by 40%. So this will allow the tool PriceLabs to adjust your prices based on occupancy level without you having to do anything, and it keeps going. So let's change a little bit more. Let's say we are 121 days out. So we are 4 months out and we're already over 60% booked, or we're just around 60% booked. I want those prices to go up a little bit. Usually means that we were priced maybe a little low. Maybe it doesn't even mean that. Maybe it just means like, hey, if there's dates out there that are still sitting out there and we've got 4 months until they come, let's just boost the prices up by 20, 25%. Someone books, someone's books. It's extra revenue in our pocket. That's my mentality there. And definitely take some time to set this up. You might have to change it a couple times in the beginning. You can see mine is honestly fairly moderate in the middle, but a little aggressive on the ends. And that's just the way I like to play it. Same way with seasonal profiles. You can download these and upload them. I honestly have occupancy-based pricing adjustments loaded to most of my markets. They're very similar across my markets just because that's just the way I like to price it. But be cognizant of different markets and different home sizes when you're setting these up. Back in general, we already did custom seasonal profile. Demand factor sensitivity, I have mine set on high. You can do recommended setting low or no demand factor. Basically, this means like if it's a big weekend, I want them boosting up the price a ton. I will go in there and level things out if I feel it needs to be. I don't have this on high for all my properties, just for this one. Maybe some others. The recommended setting is good if you don't have that high of a risk tolerance or if you just want to keep things a little bit more subdued. And of course, low is if you don't want it changing all that much because it's just 4th of July and you want to make more adjustments on your own. More customizations, these will spit out. Honestly, this is just more of an organized way. You can see that we're already getting some duplicates of what we've seen in smart presets. We talked about customized last minute, customized orphan, day of the week pricing we didn't talk about. You can see here I'm aggressive in the weekdays and Sunday, and I don't make any changes on Friday and Saturday. Then we've got occupancy-based pricing, seasonal and minimum pricing. I let seasonality, don't turn this on because I do so much work in the seasonal profiles that I don't feel that PriceLabs needs to go in there and override what I've done. To be fair, I've only used it a little bit. I don't use it on most of my properties just because I set up so many seasonal profiles. If you feel like you want to set this up, go ahead, give it a try. Let me know what you think. Minimum weekend pricing, I think this is pretty huge just so you can, this is kind of the set it and forget it point of this as well. You don't want your weekends dropping to like $100 a night. Should never be the same price as a Tuesday, in my opinion. So setting a minimum here is highly advised. Same for minimum far out pricing. Anything beyond 3 months for me, the weekend and the weekday should be pretty high. I don't really want the same rules to apply to a weekend that's 14 days out as it would for 3 months. So I'd like to set this one up. And then advanced customizations. These are more up to you. You can update your weekend days. You can customize those far out prices, the discount or premium plan that you have. pricing offset. So this means that when PriceLabs comes to its very final recommended price, after all your customizations and all the demand factor and everything that's in there, do you want an additional little kicker to be added to that, whether it's a premium or a discount? Um, I don't have many situations where this is used. I've never used this tool, but if it's something that you feel is useful, let me know how and why you use it. I'd be super interested to hear. Um, Adjacent factor, if there is a booking that came in, especially I use these especially like if there's a Thursday to Sunday booking in, I want to discount the Sunday to Wednesday a little bit. So this will shoot out a little 8% discount within 3 days of the reservation. I think the highest I have this at is 15 for some of the properties, and it might be within 7 days of the reservation. It all really depends on your market and how you feel you're going to get bookings in, and how occupancy is working out. Last two, uh, rounding. This is just a personal preference. Do you want all your prices to end with a 5 or end with a 0? Honestly, I like to stay away from 0 and 9. I like to stay in between 1 and 8. Um, just a personal psychological preference. Um, and then smoothing, you can set identical prices for specific periods. So if you want every night in 4th of July to be the same, you can just add a smoothing thing to it, just so that, let's say you want your ADR to be $550, every night will be 550, rather than having the weekends at 800 and the weekdays at 300. So that is all the customizations. There's a lot in there. Definitely take your time to check that all out. But overall, this is everywhere you need to live for your properties, and in PriceLabs. Configure those prices first, set up some seasonal profiles, use the neighborhood data to be able to help you do that. And then slowly but surely add some of these customizations that you're comfortable with. I will say, not all of these get set up for me right away. Now that I know them, I set them up right away. But in the past, I would only set up the ones that I truly understood, and truly wanted to make some changes on the calendar. Take your time with this, but it's definitely worth it, and there's a huge payoff once you start to truly understand it. Lastly, I'll just walk through some of the other menu items that PriceLabs has. We have KPIs and historic reports, also pacing reports. These are super cool, just data for your portfolio. Of course, if you have one property, let's see, yeah, let's see, all of our properties. So this will do a little portfolio analytics. You can export this stuff. You can see exactly how you compare to the same time last year, how things are changing for you, how many bookings you have, all this stuff. I mean, this is very huge for um, just an overall health of your business. But if you've got a bunch of properties in one area, this is a cool way to really geek out on the numbers and start to understand your market and also how your properties um, are being managed and handled within PriceLabs, which is pretty cool. Easy to geek out on. A lot of stuff here. I won't take us through it all. Then pacing reports. This is the same thing, except for just showing you how exactly you compare to the rest of the market rather than your whole portfolio in general. Let's see how this comes up for me. Oh, so you have to choose a market dashboard. Yeah. So the last menu item here, this is market research. This Revenue Estimator Pro is new. If you've ever used AirDNA Revenue Estimator, it's fairly similar. Market dashboards, these are pretty cool. I only own one because you have to buy them. But you could, if you were about to attack a market or you were looking to get into a new market, this would be a cool way for you to understand exactly what other listings are getting in terms of revenue, average daily rate, occupancy. So you can both assess an investment, assess a sale, or assess how you're doing in the market. I know that a colleague of mine likes to go after one single zip code in Nashville. So he bought the market dashboard for that zip code within a couple of kilometers of that zip code as well, give it a good radius, so he can see exactly how he's positioned in there. So he knows the best way to price the property. So to get really granular on the areas, I always suggest buying a couple of these. I believe they're $10 a month. I only have one here because I was helping out a client buy a new home, but because I have so many different markets that I work in, I don't buy a bunch of these. The tab would run out pretty quickly. So that was everything in PriceLabs. Gosh, we can go through and set up a whole listing and do a bunch of customizations and things like that. But the best thing for you to do is just to get it and start using it. It's super customizable. There's no one size fits all. I'm happy to share exactly how I do it if people enjoyed that. But each one of these properties that I have, because they're in a different market, they're all different sizes, they all operate much different than one another. So um, always go in there, make sure you're checking this stuff once a week, maybe twice a week. I do that sometimes, but also let the tool do its thing. It'll update every 24 hours. It'll take a lot of burden off your hands. It'll also give you way more insight than just scrolling through Airbnbs listings and seeing what the prices are at, because it can be a little bit misleading sometimes. PriceLabs will spit out exactly what's going on when people are booked, what the prices were, and what the revenue and occupancy was. So if you enjoyed this, give it a like, shoot me a subscribe. Next up is Notion tutorial, which, gosh, I'm excited for that one too. So I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.